What's good, YouTube? I'm back with another video. Man, it's like 12 o'clock at night. I'll just go for work. And about to do a video, go to bed. I just got the shower. You see right here, my neck is still wet a little bit. Just got the shower fresh. But yeah, bro, Nick Fuentes, I always fuck his name up. Nick has a lot to say about JD Vance. Like a lot to say about JD Vance and his stands with Israel. And he is an issue. Like he is an issue in the situation. He's an issue, especially with the Republican Party. Even with the Republican Party, I think I think a lot of them are going against JD. A lot of them is against JD Vance because he's supporting Israel a lot, and he won't back out the Middle East. He won't back out the war, and really has no answer into fixing the fucking war. So we want to see what's going on, and let's see what's up.
So Vance has
Make sure before you start, you roll up though. Always roll up.
this problem that at once, just like with the Iran war, there's another contradiction. You don't mind that Israel's trying to influence our government, and then you create a false equivalency and say it's just like every other country. He says Israel influences our country, but so does everybody.
That's not good. Like that's not okay. He's saying it like it's okay. Like, oh yeah, Israel influenced our country just like Russia and China does. That's not okay. That's not okay. I get what JD Vance is saying. Like, yes, every country has its influence because social media. Like, you can't 100% block out a country. Shit, we have influences over there. You know, overseas and shit. Americans do. But the amount of influence Israel has in our social media, bruh, my YouTube videos was taken down. I get no strikes, no warnings. My shit was taken down because I mentioned Israel. I was talking about the genocide they were committing, and they took it down. They said against community guidelines, but no strikes. Like, bro, like that's controlment. So like you only want me to share. If I be like, oh, Israel heroes for doing what they're doing to Gaza, y'all want to take shit down. If I call Gaza terrorist people, y'all want to take shit down. Palestinians terrorists, Muslims terrorists. They will never take this shit down. But let me say some shit about Israel. Let me talk about a Jew. They'll take this shit down. Shit's crazy out here, man. Well, my shorts, not my video, my shorts.
Trying to make us happy without pissing off the Israelis, trying to make the Israelis happy without pissing off us. He is a congenital politician.
JD Vance has a major Israel issue, and his recent interview with Joe Rogan makes that point more clear than ever. And that point is going to be even more clear in 2028 when he decides to run for president, where this all things to all people mentality, walking a tightrope, just isn't going to cut it. And Nick Fuentes is commenting on that here, revealing what this means for the future of American politics and JD Vance's angle with what will be a field of candidates in 2028. Can he pull wool over the American people when we're more polarized than ever on Israel? Let's find out Nick's take on it. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hype it if you can.
So now this is becoming an unignorable issue. Can't circumvent it. So Vance needs to position himself ahead of 2028 as someone that is not going along with this. That's why I said a couple of days ago, he has an Iran war problem. He's backing an administration that's Israel first. He's backing the administration that brought us to war in Iran. And he's going to have to defend this war as part of his record in 2028, even though it's deeply unpopular for many reasons. He's going to have to get creative and thread the needle. He's going to have to at once own up to his involvement in the policy while also distancing himself from being responsible for it. And I said a couple of days ago, I said, what's going to be the mechanism? I said, Vance will say, my job as vice president is to support the policies of the president, which is what I did. And to the extent that I disagreed, I'm just trying to achieve the best outcome.
Literally what he said. And Nick called it out. That literally what JD Vance did. He was like, I forgot what question, like what exact question Joe Rogan asked, but he pretty much asked a question like, "Oh, do you support what's going on, like with Trump and stuff, blah blah blah. If you was in office, would you do the same thing? What did you say to Trump about the war? What was you doing? And JD Vance, he comes back like, oh, as a vice president, Joe Rogan literally was like, hey, if you was in Trump's shoes, what would you do? How do you feel? He went around the whole question. He was like, oh yeah, I'm the vice president. He's like, I'm the vice president. I just support what the president does. I have my opinions and I help him when I can, and I give him advice. I help him. I'm the vice president. I come in when I got to. He did everything else. It went around every single question. Other than just answering the fucking question.
I'm trying to make a peace deal. I'm doing my best to make diplomacy succeed. And so even though I was not in a position to betray or oppose the president's policy, I did my best to mitigate or ameliorate the damage. I said that a couple of days ago, and almost bar for bar, word for word, he said that on Joe Rogan.
Literally, yes.
But the larger issue, the thematic issue, it's not specifically just about the war. Of course, it was also about Gaza, and it's about the foreign aid. And it's, like Joe Rogan said, it's about the broader conversation about Israel's money in our politics, their control over our media, their influence over certain politicians. So Vance has this problem that at once, just like with the Iran war, there's another contradiction. At once, he needs to pander and appeal to this growing number of people, especially young people, that are anti-Israel. At the same time, he cannot completely alienate the Jewish right in America.
Yeah, that is Vance's ultimate problem, isn't it? And indeed, if you run for a nomination of a major political party, you need to attract mass coalitions of people to support you. That is true. Multiple demographics to secure that nomination. But here's the thing. This issue has supercharged a lot of Americans, and a lot of the activist base feels very strongly on this issue. We are indeed very polarized on this issue. So trying to walk the tightrope, be all things to all people, might not cut it in a time where being lukewarm is viewed as the most cowardice thing that you could possibly do. It's viewed as tepid and, totally insignificant in affecting what Americans want to have changed within their federal apparatus. And indeed, this is going to be J.D. Vance's line that he'll always use. I wasn't in a position to guide this policy, but now that I'm there, I'll try to solve it. I'll try to have a peace agreement. Well, your own administration showed a willingness to sabotage that peace agreement. You can talk about Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, and I think he mentioned Mike Pence to Joe Rogan in that segment, doing whatever they can to undermine the peace agreement when it was, in the end, in reality, the Trump administration that ended the peace framework, the MOU that called for a ceasefire, called for the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, called for a ceasing of hostilities. Why? You wouldn't hold Israel accountable. You wouldn't restrain Israel. In Lebanon. They're still there. They're boasting about going further and annexing the territory. U.S. never uses leverage to check the Israelis. Just about never. And, say what you want about the vice president and his role under this government. We need more vice presidents like John C. Calhoun, who resigned from the vice presidency when his ideas on nullification and onerous taxation conflicted with the president. Andrew Jackson. We need more Joe Kents right now, not more J.D. Vances. We need people that stand on principle, tell the truth even when it's most controversial and at great risk to your public persona and reputation. We don't need charlatan chameleons that were orchestrated in a Palantir lab and with the mentorship of neocon David Frum. That's not what we need.
So he can piss them off a little bit, but he can't totally alienate them. So I said a couple of days ago, Vance is going to need to try to find the middle ground. I said, and what he's going to try to do is give just enough. He's going to try to breadcrumb the Israel critical people. And he's going to try to do this by saying things that sound like they're more based than they are. He did this when the MOU was announced. When the MOU was announced, and Israel was not implementing the ceasefire in Lebanon and effectively sabotaging peace, Vance came out at the White House and said, America makes all the weapons that Israel uses to defend itself. Now, that's a factual statement, but the implication was they should be grateful, and out of gratitude, they should obey us. But that's not what he said. He said something that is a fact, and the conclusion that everybody draw, the only conclusion you could draw, why is it relevant that American hands made all the weapons that keep Israel safe? Well, because they should be grateful. And out of gratitude, they should go with the program. But he didn't say that. He implied that.
You see, like, and I get it, because like because he can't fully, in his position right now, he can't fully talk down on Israel. But like, he criticizes them without criticizing them. Nah, bro, be straightforward, bruh. But you're going to lose a race. You're going to lose. Like, you're going to lose a race. Nobody going to vote for you because they know you're bullshitting. Like, we know you're bullshitting. We know it. But you gotta go and say, bro, no, Israel need to chill the fuck out, nigga. We make your weapons, bro. Chill the fuck out. Or we ain't giving you nothing else. We're not giving you nothing. That's all you gotta do. But no, JD, bro, I don't get this shit, man.
Why does that matter? What's the difference? Because you don't have to defend what you imply. You only have to defend what you say.
Yep.
It gives you plausible deniability. So when, in a year after he's won the primary, in 2 years, in 2028, after he's won the Republican primary to be the nominee for president, when AIPAC and when Miriam Adelson goes to interrogate him, before we give you this $100 million, how do we know you're going to stand with Israel? What about this comment? Vance doesn't have to stand by the conclusion you drew. He can stand by the words.
Yep.
And say, well, I never said Israel should do whatever we say because they're dependent on us. I just said we make all their weapons, and that happens to be true. All I said was something factual. Do you disagree with the statement?
Manipulation.
These lizard people politicians, this is how they behave, and there's a lot of truth to what Nick is saying now. That's what JD Vance will defend, not the implications that a lot of people are interpreting from that. And in a way, I think it is significant that the vice president and president were out there saying things that were critical of Israel for that brief, window of 72 hours. That is significant. I couldn't believe it when Trump said, hey, Israel drops way too many bombs over innocent people in Lebanon. Would have been nice to have that Trump when it came.
Now, I feel like with Trump, it got to a point where he's getting fed up. Like he's old. Nigga old. He's old. This is his last term. He don't give a fuck. It's Trump. He don't care. So getting to a point like, bro, nigga, you're doing too much. And bro, you're doing too much. Like, stop bombing Lebanon. Back the hell up. What are you doing? We're trying to get peace treaty. The world economy is crashing, and you want to continue war. What are you doing?
To Gaza too, when they unleashed a hellscape and the mass murder of over 100,000 people would have been nice too, but he said not all those people are Hezbollah. JD Vance implied that Israel should be grateful to the United States. Some of those things were some of the first statements from a presidential administration, at least at the top, the president and vice president ever, but public sentiment has shifted farther away even than that, where Americans don't want to support Israel. No foreign aid. Don't want to support these wars. And again, walking this tightrope is not going to be an approach that attracts a widespread movement. Nothing like the Trump phenomenon in 2016. That moment was based on Trump saying uncomfortable truths in 2016. Of course, he's abandoned all of them, but especially in terms of war. Iraq was a big fat mistake. Going into the Middle East was a mistake. That's not what JD Vance is preparing himself to do, and Americans will notice that.
So he came up with a few of these statements when the MOU came out that if you're really reading what he said, close reading is such an important skill. People,
you have to be able, bro. Wording and how you use your words is extremely important. Like, extremely important. And that's where miscommunication comes in. That's where fights come in, arguments. Bruh, there are probably so many arguments in your relationship that was an argument because of miscommunication. Word wronging. wrong wording, certain tones, how you said something but you didn't mean it that way. Words are important. They're very important, and you have to be upfront with somebody, especially in a serious conversation. You have to be upfront with somebody, even if it hurts them, because words play a major role in how you say your words.
Ask me all the time, how do I make the best predictions? And a lot of times people don't understand what I'm saying.
It works.
Close reading is such an important skill in politics, because politicians are lawyers. That's what politics is. It's writing laws, interpreting laws, enforcing laws. And what the law is the word. So it matters what people say. It matters what people write. Because at the end of the day, that is what stands. It's not what people think. It's not what people take away. It's not what people infer. It's
not what you think. It's not what you feel. It's not what you thought it meant. Whatever is the words that's written on that paper is what it is.
What is written is what is said. And so I remember when the MOU came out, he was just saying all these factual statements to make it seem like he was chastising Israel, but he really wasn't. And that was his tricky little way of giving the anti-Israel crowd what they thought, and it worked. All the Israel critical people said, whoa, did you hear what Vance said? He's really putting Israel in their place. And I said, no, I read exactly what Vance said. I didn't see a single word of critique. I didn't see one word. I read a number.
No, I didn't say anything. No, I didn't say something about J.D. Vance. I said J.D. Vance is low-key, because I took it from my perspective, not from his words. I took it from, he talking a little bit down on Israel. Okay, cool. He better chill out for Israel to kill him. But I said, he talking down on Israel a little bit. Trump was the one that said something. J.D. kind of said something, but I took it as he was saying something. But yes, what Nick is saying is true. Word from word, he ain't really say shit word from word.
Factual statements, and yeah, you can make some inferences, but I didn't really hear a position being staked out at all. A position is, Israel is dependent on us. They should do what we fucking tell them to do. That's a position. A position is, we defended you. We furnished you with the Iron Dome. We furnished you with interceptors. We shot down Iran's rockets. You're dependent on us. You do what we say. You think we're giving you the support for free? It's expectations. You think you're an ally? What do you have to give to us? You have a small economy, a small population. You owe us. Get in line. That's a position.
Literally. We fight, bro, we fight your wars. We fund you. We give you all our equipment. We give you equipment. Bro, respect us. Do what we say. And at that point, it's not even like my bad, y'all. I'm trying not to cough. My fault. It's not even a situation where it's like we're bosses or we're like your big brother, like, dog, do what we say. No, it's more so like, bro, respect us. Like, you're not even respecting us. Then what makes it even worse, bro, like, this is not even about J.D. Vance. This is just about Israel in general. It's like you have like news anchors, podcasters, spokesmen, journalists telling Americans to die for y'all. All Christians need to die for the Jews. Who? Americans need to die for Israel. Who? You tell me, because it ain't us. Shit.
That would be a position that really called for American sovereignty to be at the forefront rather than fealty to this foreign regime indeed. And isn't the neocon Zionist response to some of J.D. Vance's recent comments on this very indicative of what I'm trying to say here? Those people hate him anyways. Those people will support Marco Rubio or Nikki Haley or any bloodthirsty maniac that is even more rigid in terms of their war propaganda and their war execution support than J.D. Vance. They already hate J.D. Vance. So in trying to walk this narrow middle position that J.D. Vance is doing, he's not really pleasing any of the dissidents that despise this war, which basically is 75 to 80% of the American public. The only demographic that isn't is right-wing boomers watching Fox News all day for the most part. There's a few exceptions, of course, and there's exceptions among the boomer ranks in terms of this issue too. They'll let me know about it all day in the comments, as if, you know, saying that men are generally taller than women is a massively controversial subject, but that is true. So again, JD Vance is despised by the neocon right to such an extent, but he's not telling the truth in a way that would attract the energy that it would take to build a 2028 campaign. And just as association with this administration is going to taint him and tarnish him, just like Marco Rubio anyways.
It's not a position to say, well, Israel should remember that America makes all the weapons that it uses. That's not a position. That's a fact. That's a factual statement. He's doing the same thing here. And the word is equivocation. So what does he say? He says, Israel influences our country. How do they influence our country? They try to manipulate the public conversation. He says, I know that members of the Israeli government don't like the deal. We know exactly what they're doing. They're paying Brad Parscale to pay influencers to critique the deal on the internet and criticize me. These are all factual statements. And by the way, they're all true. Israel, like other governments, attempts to influence public policy, yes. How do they do it? Well, according to this article, this was the means. This was the mode of their influence. Factual statement. What's the value statement, though? He says, well, I don't actually even mind. He says, Israel influences our country, but so does everybody. Israel tries to influence our country, and why wouldn't they? Israel influences our country, so do all our allies and all our enemies. And I don't mind it. He says it's only a problem when American officials listen to it. Really? That's the problem? You don't mind that Israel's trying to influence our government? And then you create a false equivalency and say it's just like every other country. It's just like every other country, and they're in the right to do it, and I understand why they do it, and I don't mind that they do it.
It was promised to them 1,400 years ago.
The real culprit are our own politicians. Israel's not the culprit. Their agents aren't the culprit. We're the problem. The problem is when American officials listen to them, but I don't mind that they try.
Well, there's a lot of culprits to go around. Both forces are nefarious, and when you get into the empire building business in these entangling alliances, everyone has blood on their hands, and the well-landed lobbies in Washington, D.C. that benefit from it, in the banks, the military-industrial complex, big energy, big tech, etc., they all benefit from it. They're all culprits. But here's the thing I just can't get over. The thing that he does is set the parameters in a direction where it's just all countries doing this. All countries try to influence the U.S., which is probably true, or most of them do. Powerful countries try to do that through psychological operations, etc. Why wouldn't they? We're the superpower. But that makes the conversation go in a direction that Americans don't need. Here's the conversation we need. Why does Israel find success doing it? Why do U.S. politicians allow Israel to get what they want in terms of bankroll, in terms of genocides, in terms of military operations, foreign aid, intelligence sharing, veto power used on their behalf in the UN? Why is it Israel that succeeds in it? That's what Vance will never answer, because I said on my show yesterday, it's not like the United States is bankrolling the genocides of Madagascar and the foreign wars of Nepal's choice. The United States is not doing that. We're acquiescing mostly to the Israelis and somewhat to the Saudis. That's what the war in Yemen was. And certainly subsidizing the Europeans through the NATO alliance. Not a defensive alliance, an offensive alliance that is essentially the eastern wing, the European wing, I should say, of America's empire. That's what it is. So, but why does Israel become the biggest foreign aid recipient? Why does Israel have all of its adversaries knocked out by the United States, or attempted to be knocked out by the United States? Not really finding success in Iran, something that Vance will never answer. So indeed, it's a false equivalency to say or imply that Israel's on the same stage as, say, Djibouti or the Ivory Coast. It's just preposterous.
How could you not mind? How could you not mind? First of all, that's not even true. It's a totally false equivalency. The United Kingdom and France do not influence American policy as much as Israel does. How do we know that? Look at our policy with...
No, they don't. Hell no. Hell no. Me, you know damn well nobody in the United States listens to the UK or anybody in Europe. You know, we, especially your UK, Great Britain, British, and shit in France. We don't listen to a damn thing they say. Nigga, we don't care. We don't care. It's Europe. We don't give a fuck. Go eat your croissants and drink fucking tea. We don't care. Like, so whoever tried to say the UK and France has more influence in the United States than Israel is out their motherfucking mind. They're out their way. There's a way possible. Who listen to the fucking French?
Regard to Europe right now. Are France and the United Kingdom happy about our policy in Iran? No. Are they happy about our policy in Ukraine? No. Are they happy about our policy towards Greenland? No. Are they happy about our trade policy towards Europe? No. It's this equivocation, trying to make everybody happy. Trying to make us happy without pissing off the Israelis, trying to make the Israelis happy without pissing off us. He is a congenital politician. That's why he was a never Trumper in 2016, and now he's a national conservative in 2026. That's why a couple of years ago, when he got the nomination at the convention, he said we need to bomb Iran really hard. And now that it's not working out, he says, oh, well, I just have to do whatever the president says. Remember? 2 years ago, Sean Hannity interviewed him at the Republican convention. And Hannity said, what do you think about foreign policy? And Vance said, I think we need to punch Iran hard. He said, no more of these minor strikes. We need to hit Iran and hit them hard. He said that at the convention.
Yeah, Nick's right about that. I played that clip several times on this show. It's something that many of Vance's supporters don't want to bring up now, but Vance has consistently reinvented himself. He's an opportunist. He's built himself in the direction that he thinks will lead to, you know, better aspirations for him down the road. And so far, he's been successful. You know, with his political career cultivated by first David Frum, the neocon stooge that wrote the Axis of Evil speech, one of George W. Bush's staffers, very related to the project of a new American century that called for these foreign wars, and then to Peter Thiel, the founder of Palantir, who is, you know, part of the PayPal mafia. He started PayPal with Elon Musk, associated with David Sachs and others who are supporting Vance. And Vance has changed his political mentality more times in politics than even the number of times that he's changed his own legal name. He had 3 legal names. That's J.D. Vance. He's a chameleon. He's a charlatan. He's a fraud, but he articulates himself better than some of the other neocon psychopaths that have come before him. That's why he represents a little bit more of a sophisticated side to the new American right, and it's going to work. It's going to work on a lot of people. It's going to dupe a lot of people into thinking, well, he's the real non-interventionist. He's the real inheritor of this populist right energy, which doesn't even exist anymore. It's all regime energy, tainted by Epstein, the spending sprees, the welfare state, the regulatory state, the inflation, the debt, and the Iran war. That's what it is.
When he was formally nominated. 2 years later, when we actually do it, he goes, well, I just had to support the president. It gets better. So he says all this in the interview, and Joe Rogan asks him point blank. He says, okay, so do you think Israel is manipulating the conversation in America? Do you think they're succeeding at this? And the reaction from Vance, I mean, it's almost like a bit. It's almost like a sketch. So Vance just gets done saying, Israel tries to influence our government. They try to influence it by influencing the public discourse. We know exactly what they're doing. According to Time magazine, Brad Parscale was paid by Israel to pay influencers to poison pill the deal. So Joe Rogan says, do you think Israel is influencing the conversation? And Vance goes, and then he fills up his glass with water. He goes, I mean, that's a really complicated question, man. I don't know. I'm not even making it up. That's what he...
Like I said earlier, all he did was beat around the question, bro. He can't answer that shit because he know it's gonna look bad on him through Israel's eyes, and all that's doing is making the American people dislike Israel more. Just admit to the shit you're doing, but he won't. The never will say anything, so it's gonna make the American people dislike Israel more. Then they talk about merging. They were talking about merging militaries. That shit crazy.
Literally. Fills his glass with water. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a difficult question, man.
Yeah, that is correct. If you don't believe me, watch that interview. But Nick's not even really hyperbolizing here. JD Vance was kind of set off his typical, easygoing position on that one. Couldn't quite answer it. Why? Because he knows by answering that he would piss off either the dissidents that despise the attachment to Israel, which many are on the right, especially younger people now, and the neocon Zionists that call for a never-ending war, no matter what it takes, no matter how much blood or treasure, at least as long as it's not Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin or Laura Loomer or Will Chamberlain's blood and treasure to accomplish a regime change. He'd piss off both groups by answering that. And hey, credit to Joe Rogan here. He's always congenial with all of his guests. Sometimes he pushes back, but he actually held JD Vance's feet to the fire here in this interview a little bit more than I suspected. He really said, well, it goes a lot deeper than just the war. It goes to the influence and intelligence sharing and all the foreign aid and the intelligence connections and all of, these domestic issues in the United States too. So to Rogan's credit, he actually did ask some pointed questions to Vance. And like I said, Vance presents so much better than many of the Zionists, but he's walking a middle path. And look, what we've seen in the last few years is the rise of the independent media that's displaced the corporate media, that's lied to the American people about so much, whether it be, the Patriot Act, the DHS, the war on terror, the corporate welfare, the regulatory apparatus, all the spending sprees, all the deep state scandals. And part of that mass streak of lying has dealt with American foreign policy and its connections to Israel, with our regime change operations in Iraq and Syria and Libya and Somalia, which is still ongoing, all tied to Israel, with Iran right now tied to Israel, lied to the American people for so long. So now that the American people, in many ways, especially younger people, have broken free from that corporate media apparatus, they want the truth. And the truth is not going to be taking the middle ground on this issue. Sure, there's lots of Republican voters and Americans in general that don't exactly care that much about the American relationship with Israel, but many of the problems that they're dealing with, even the people that don't care, are downstream from these issues, from all the inflation that comes from it, the Fed trying to, print money to finance it, all the debt that's being spent for it. All the wars that lead to, small-scale conflicts in the United States and accusations that your neighbor's an anti-Semite because they don't want to fund these never-ending wars for Israel. That comes from it. These anti-free speech codes specifically as a carve-out, against criticism of Israel in the United States. Withholding disaster relief and FEMA for organizations that are critical of Israel. All of this is under the umbrella of that, and especially the debt and inflation that basically everyone has to care about. So in this time, if you're not going to tell the American people the truth, if you're going to try to be all things to all people, you're not going to meet the populist moment that this era calls for. We've never seen this era where the corporate media has lost control over the information. They don't have a monopoly on it anymore. And Americans are polarized on this issue, especially activists that care about leading campaigns, managing campaigns, getting people involved to vote, etc. And I don't think this middle ground is going to work if JD Vance could make anything work at this point. I think he's too tainted by Epstein saying nothing about it, essentially, too tainted by the Iran war, propagandizing on behalf of the idea that Iran was on the cusp of getting a nuclear weapon and making an absurd mockery of himself, talking about the prospect of nuclear vests being detonated if the United States doesn't take out Iran. And now he wants to say, well, hey, you know, now I'm there to try to solve the problem. No, you propagandized on behalf of this war, just as Trump did.
Yep.
Even if that New York Times story was true, that you did disagree with this war. That's not what you said a year and a half ago at the RNC, of course, actually 2 years ago, when you're saying, yeah, we need to punch Iran hard. He's reinvented himself so many times, not only on this issue, but with others, but that's what we should expect from a Peter Thiel and David Frum puppet. And that's who they're going to throw out there as a non-interventionist for you to vote for in 2028. Well, not this guy. Not this guy, man. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about JD Vance's appearance? Is this tightrope walking going to work whatsoever? Let me know down below. Like the video.
Man, I said, I think it's crazy. Like, but I hear something, but my fault. But I'm tripping. It's like a TV playing. But yeah, bro, man, I just think it's crazy, man. I just think it's crazy out here in the Israel situation. JD Vance not like, bro, nobody's setting up to him. I don't know what they got on them. I don't know what they got. But bro, they're running a mob. They're running crazy with this war. Then they started another one, Lebanon. I mean, yeah, they've been fighting, but they started advancing more in Lebanon. It went Gaza, Iran, Lebanon. It's 10 years. It's 10. Like, they had to chill out. It started this year. I was 17. What else are we talking about? I was 17, 16, 17, 18. I'm 27. That shit crazy. Well, like I said, man, JD Vance got to fix what he's doing if he want to win this. I don't think Republicans are going to win this election. I think it'll be Democrat. But what I really honestly think, I think whoever down talks Israel the most will win. That's the only one. That will be the one that unite. That will be the leader who unites America. The one who down talk Israel. He will unite America because everybody is agreeing with we need to leave Israel alone and back out. Everybody agrees with it. No matter if you left or right, doesn't matter. The Republican or Democrat majority of the United States, a vast majority of the United States agree we need to leave Israel alone, let them be them. And we need to come the fuck back home and worry about our own people.